it is rare, but every so often a game comes along that is remembered pretty much forever as, if not a pioneer for the genre, then as a game of such high quality that it makes all its competitors feel redundant by comparison. The FPS has games like Doom and Half-Life, the RTS has games like Command & Conquer and StarCraft, and the adventure genre has, amongst others, The Secret of Monkey Island. And this review feels completely unnecessary to me. The Secret of Monkey Island is a game that you either have played or you're planning to play. If you don't fall into one of those two categories, you should hang up your mouse and your 500GB hard disk full of porn and call it a day. You don't deserve to be a PC gamer. So, as I said, this review feels completely unnecessary to me. Not only is this The Secret of Monkey Island, this is The Secret of Monkey Island, except better. You play as the non-threatening, bumbling, and generally adorable wannabe pirate, Guybrush Threepwood. You begin the game just after arriving on Miller Island, proclaiming that you wish to be a pirate. You make your way to the pirate leaders, the chaps who apparently get to decide who gets to be a pirate, who set before you 3 trials. These 3 trials, sword mastery, thievery, and treasure finding, must be completed before you can become a fully fledged pirate. Along the way you meet Governor Elaine Marley and promptly fall in love, as well as the evil ghost pirate LeChuck, who also loves Elaine. The ensuing governor-slash-pirate-slash-ghost story is pretty predictable and is somewhat scant for an adventure game, but the piratey setting at least is very fresh even in today's post-Pirates of the Caribbean world. As with pretty much all other funny adventure games, the story is of little consequence because, well, it's a funny game. I don't know if people agree with this, but I find that the funnier something is, the more everything else becomes irrelevant. If I'm laughing, it's doing its job, and The Secret of Monkey Island does indeed make me laugh. From the huge warning that appears on screen telling you that the dogs you've drugged are only sleeping and no animals are harmed in the game, to the pirate shamelessly advertising one of LucasArts' other games, to the ingenious idea that is insult sword fighting. Secret is a very funny game, and the more you laugh, and you will laugh, the more things like story and puzzles stop mattering. But that doesn't stop Secret from having great puzzles. The original game had what was called the verb table. You can pick up, use, give, push, pull, open, close, look at, and talk to objects in the game. The special edition still has the verb table intact, but now it's hiding off screen and you pull it down with Control, while Alt commands your inventory. It's an elegant and simple system that keeps the screen clear, but as the game is widescreened, the proportions haven't changed, as the original game's bulky UI meant that the actual in-use game area was about 16:9. The verb table means that in any given puzzle there are nearly a dozen options available to you, and there's item combining. But the game is by no means annoyingly hard. The puzzles are all logical, and it's the harder puzzles like the red herring puzzle and the stuck underwater puzzle that are as memorable as any puzzle I've ever experienced. Assuming you haven't played the game before, you will get stuck from time to time. To aid with that, LucasArts has added a Telltale-style hint system into the game. I love the idea of a hint system in concept. It keeps people from quitting, and it keeps people from using walkthroughs. Both good things, as once you've looked at a walkthrough once, it becomes very hard to avoid looking again, almost as soon as you get stuck. They are very corrupting. And the hint system, in concept, gently nudges you in the right direction. Ideally, hints are never too blatant, and ideally, the player has no direct control over when receiving the hints, meaning the player can't just hint themselves through the entire game. This is how Telltale does things, and it works extremely well. LucasArts has taken the idea of the hint being a gentle nudge and turned it into a two-handed shove by a 350-pound bald man named Bubba. Not only can the player summon hints at any time with the H key, every time the player taps H, or the retard button as I've come to think of it, the hints increase in intensity until there are specific instructions and a giant fucking arrow floating on the screen. I appreciate that the game is also coming out for the 360, and a lot of them will need to be babied like that, but the retard button should have been dialed way back into an actual hint system, one that offers hints rather than an in-game walkthrough on command. And yes, the option is always there to not use it, or to use it sparingly so as to avoid the giant arrow. but people simply can't help themselves with things like that. You may be scoffing and thinking you don't need the retard button, or you wouldn't ever use it. If so, you are 1 in 10 and probably a liar. The hint system is way too overblown, and it does spoil the game. Not for me or you, as we are awesome and have played the original game, so we know what to do and where to go, but for all the Johnny-come-latelys who are playing the game for the first time, the hint system won't hurt us, but it will hurt them, and that is a shame. The art, as you can see, has been completely redone. These beautiful hand-painted backdrops are a huge improvement over the originals. It's sad to say, but there are a lot of people out there who simply won't play ugly games, and since most of the best games were released before 2000, those people are missing out on most of the best games ever made, Secret being one of them. These improved visuals should surely be sufficient incentive for those shameful graphics whores, and you know who you are. For the rest of us, it's just a very pleasant bonus. These visuals, specifically character models, are more stylized than many might have expected, and I've spoken to people who are nerd raging about the rape of their childhood. I love the visual style used here, as, if anything, it feels more in line with the awesome animation used in Curse, though nowhere near as excellent. I've always felt that the more realistic visuals used in the original game were always a little at odds with the comedic tone, while the cartoony style here feels just right to me. If you're like them and you don't want to play with the new visuals, you have the option to switch over to the original style visuals and UI at any time. This seems like a cool feature, and it's even a bullet point on LucasArts marketing information, but it's a very useless feature. Those who want to play the original can do so very easily with ScumVM, while those who want to play with the new visuals will have no particular need for the old visuals. Nevertheless, it does hold some slight nostalgic value, but then again that may be said of the entire game. Although the backdrops are great, the actual animation on the characters feels more than a little cheap. The way characters move about is very wooden, and there's no lip syncing or even canned mouth movements during the close-up character portraits. While initially annoying, if only because the game is otherwise so polished, these things can very easily be forgiven after a glance at the price tag. On the whole, this is a very solid visual experience for an adventure game, and more than sufficient for this kind of re-release. Unquestionably the best thing about this re-release, and this is something I've wanted for a long time, the game now has full voice acting.
Hi, I'm selling these fine leather jackets.
Do you have one in size 3? Of course you don't, because you're not really a jacket salesman. Let's be honest. You're here to prove yourself.
Monkey Island veterans Dominic Amato, Alexandra Boyd, Earl Bowen and Leilani Jones-Wilmore return as Guybrush, Elaine LeChuck and the Voodoo Lady respectively, all doing an excellent job as always. The problem with the voice acting is the dialogue is paced to be read by the player rather than listened to, and this pacing hasn't been altered for this re-release. And this means it often feels very wooden and there are irregular and unnatural pauses. All the actors do their best with it though, and there's no question that these new voices add a lot to the game, both in terms of polish and the overall comedic value. Similarly, the musical score has been completely redone. Monkey Island has some of the most iconic music in computer game history, and while we've all heard it before in Curse and Escape and perhaps Tales, it still brought a smile to my lips to hear the theme here in such high quality. The Secret of Monkey Island is one of the very best adventure games out there, and this special edition is even better. If you've never played the original game, you want this game, and if you have played the original game, well, you also want this game. I'd recommend this to absolutely everybody, even if you don't play games, if only because it will help the cause of LucasArts special editioning more of their excellent adventure games. LucasArts abruptly turned into a very mediocre development studio 10 or so years ago, but this here is their first step toward redemption.